On January 1st, 2021, the San Diego Sheriff's Department received a chilling call. A man claimed that his ex-girlfriend, Jade Janks, had murdered her stepfather, Tom Merriman, and asked for his help in moving the body. Janks, an interior designer, had been close to Merriman since childhood and had even moved next door to him during the COVID-19 pandemic. However, after authorities found Merriman's body under a pile of trash in his driveway, they learned that Janks may have had a reason to murder him. Jade Janks claimed that, while cleaning Merriman's home a week earlier, she had discovered hundreds of explicit photos of herself saved on his computer. This shocking discovery, combined with Janks's text messages and suspicious purchases, began to paint a sinister picture of what had truly happened between Jade Janks and Tom Merriman. Jade Janks was born on October 14, 1983 in Texas. She came from a well-off family and had a seemingly normal childhood. When Janks was a teenager, her mother married Thomas Merriman. The couple had an on-again, off-again relationship, and court records show the couple filed for divorce 3 different times in 2002, 2006, and 2008. That said, Janks maintained a close relationship with Merriman, whom she considered her father. "He would call me his daughter and I would call him my dad," Janks said. Janks and Merriman remained close even when she became an adult. As the COVID-19 pandemic intensified in April 2020, Janks even moved next door to Merriman in order to be closer to him. She spent a great deal of time with him and even cooked him dinner most nights. Then on December 15, 2020, Merriman suffered a dangerous fall at his home and had to be admitted to Scripps Hospital in Encinitas, California. During his stay, Janks went over to his house to neaten things up. But on December 23rd, Janks made a horrifying discovery. While tidying up his room, Janks bumped into Merriman's home computer and awakened the screensaver. The image of a woman's breast caught Janks off guard, but then she realized who they belonged to. "I look and I'm like, those are my breasts," she would later explain. Stunned, Janks logged into the computer and discovered hundreds of files containing nude images of herself. All of the images were taken consensually with Janks's former boyfriends, starting when Janks was 16. But Janks had no idea how Merriman had gotten his hands on them. "It was the most violating, just awful, gut-wrenching feeling ever. I remember I felt sick. I felt I couldn't even touch my own skin," Janks explained. She suddenly felt scared to be alone and wanted somebody to look out for me and make sure that I was safe. Just over a week later, Thomas Merriman would be found dead. On New Year's Day 2021, the San Diego Police Department received a call from a man named Adam Sipliak. The man told authorities that his ex-girlfriend, Jade Janks, may have killed her stepfather. He claimed that on December 31st, Janks texted him asking for help moving Tom Merriman's body. Authorities got in touch with Merriman's family, but none of them had heard from Merriman, prompting authorities to pay him a visit at his home. While pulling up the driveway, authorities found Janks driving away from her home. Janks came to the station with officers and claimed she last saw Merriman after picking him up from the hospital and dropping him off at his house. Back at Merriman's home, authorities searched the property but found no sign of Merriman. Then early in the morning on January 2nd, one officer noticed a pile of trash in the home's driveway. Upon investigation, they found the body of Tom Merriman, wrapped in a blanket and covered in trash. Later that morning, the police arrested Jade Janks. She was charged with the murder of Thomas Merriman, but the full extent of what happened between them would not come out until she stood trial 2 years later. Jade Janks stood trial in December 2022. She pled not guilty, and indeed an autopsy of Merriman's body found that he had high levels of Ambien in his system. Merriman had struggled with prescription drug abuse and alcoholism for years, and Janks claimed that his death was caused by his substance abuse and overall poor health. At her highly publicized trial, Jade Janks stated that Tom Merriman called her early on December 31st, 2020, to confirm that she would be picking him up. She agreed, picking him from the hospital that morning. With her stepfather still in the car, Janks stopped at CVS in the hardware store. When she got back to her vehicle, she said that Merriman had become virtually incoherent from prescription medications he'd taken, including Ambien. She claimed that she tried to drop Merriman back off at the hospital, but ended up driving him back to his home. She couldn't get him inside, so she reached out for help. No one she called would come, so she called Adam Sipliak, a former boyfriend. Sipliak arrived to help, but according to Janks, left because of how sick Merriman looked. In Sipliak's telling, however, Janks confessed to killing her stepfather. Janks claimed that she decided to leave Merriman in the car with a blanket overnight. But when she checked on him the next morning, he was dead. Panicked, Jade moved his body under the pile of trash. As for the nude photos Jade Janks claims to have found, her defense team decided not to use the story as evidence because Janks reportedly destroyed the computer's hard drive the day she found the images, making her the only person alive to have seen them. However, the prosecution argued that Janks had murdered Tom Merriman, and they had a goldmine of her text messages to back them up. As the prosecution discovered, Jade Janks had reached out to Alan Roach, a local security guard who she had met through a mutual friend, after discovering the photos of herself on Merriman's computer. "If you have a problem, I could fix it for you," Roach told Janks. Then on December 31st, Janks sent a number of messages to Roach shortly after picking Merriman up from the hospital.
"I just dosed the hell out of him. He's waking up. I really don't want to be the one to do this. I can't carry him alone, and I can't keep a kicking body in my trunk. I am about to club him on the head as he is waking up. I'm not strong enough. He is very aware now, and I am on my own."
Additionally, security footage taken at a CVS and hardware store after she picked up Merriman on December 31st showed Janks purchasing red rope, gloves, towels, and other items. Janks claimed that these items were for a painting project. The prosecution alleged that they were a murder kit. What's more, authorities had found Jade Janks' DNA on Tom Merriman's Ambien prescription and a plastic bag containing Merriman's DNA inside of it, pointing to attempted asphyxiation. With this evidence, the prosecution argued that Janks had attempted to asphyxiate Merriman, and when that didn't work, she administered a fatal dose of Ambien. The text messages she sent Roach, detailing how Merriman was gaining consciousness and seemingly trying to fight back before being given Ambien, were the final nails in the coffin for Jade Janks. On December 21st, 2022, Jade Janks was found guilty of the first-degree murder of her stepfather and received a sentence of 25 years to life. She will be eligible for parole when she is 64 years old, the same age Tom Merriman was at the time of his brutal murder. Murdered Georgia nursing student Laken Riley's iPhone, which she used in her final moments to call her mom, and which her killer left a thumbprint on after he attacked her, solved her murder. The Apple device was critical in clinching the murder conviction against illegal migrant and trendy Aragua gangster Jose Ibarra in November, because it helped provide a precise timeline of her movements. Jose Ibarra, a Venezuelan man, went hunting for females on the University of Georgia's campus last year and ended up killing nursing student Laken Riley after a struggle. Laken Riley, a 22-year-old nursing student, was killed while out on a run on the University of Georgia's campus. The Augusta University student was found dead in a wooded area on the Athens campus on February 22, 2024. On the morning of the murder, at 8:55 a.m., Riley texted her mother, Allison Phillips, "Good morning. About to go for a run if you're free to talk," according to University of Georgia Police Sergeant Sophie Raboud, one of the lead investigators in the case, who testified on Tuesday, November 19, 2024, about Riley's cell phone activity. Riley called her mother at 9:03 a.m., then started listening to music, Raboud said. She was captured on a trail camera at 9:05 a.m., running with her iPhone in her left hand toward the intramural fields. She runs out of view of the camera at 9:06 a.m. At 9:11 a.m., she called 911. Witnesses previously testified that Riley initiated the call through the SOS application on her phone. The dispatcher was not able to speak with anyone before the call was hung up and called back twice with no answer, the witnesses said. At 9:24 a.m., Riley received a call from her mother that went unanswered. At 9:38 a.m., her mother texted, "Call me when you can." Raboud said Riley's mother continued to try to reach Riley, but the calls went unanswered, before texting at 9:58 a.m. "You're making me nervous, not answering when you're out running. Are you okay?" Riley received subsequent calls from her mother and sister that went unanswered. At 11:47 a.m., her mother texted, "Please call me, I'm worried sick about you." Subsequent calls, including from her stepfather, also went unanswered. Trail camera footage from later that morning, shown in court, captured Riley's roommates, Lily Steiner and Sophia Magana, on the trail searching for her. Riley's roommates reported her missing at 12:05 p.m., and a University of Georgia police officer found her body 65 feet off the trail at 12:38 p.m. Data from the Garmin watch she was wearing on her run showed her heart stopped at 9:28 a.m. Riley had sustained significant blunt force trauma to her head, including 8 injuries to the left side of her skull and an injury just above her right temple, Dr. Michelle DeMarco, who conducted her autopsy, testified. One of the injuries was significant enough that it caused brain bleeding and could have been fatal, she said. There was also evidence of asphyxiation, though DeMarco said she was unable to categorize how that occurred. Her cause of death was determined to be the combined effects of blunt force head trauma and asphyxia, DeMarco said. Ibarra was interviewed on February 23rd in connection with her death and had multiple scratches observable on his arms. The suspect's DNA was found under Riley's right fingernails, according to Ashley Hinkle, a crime lab scientist at the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, who tested the evidence. The probability of the DNA belonging to anyone other than Ibarra was 1 in 10 billion, she said during testimony. Ibarra's 2 brothers were excluded as matches. A man was captured on a trail camera the morning of the murder, heading toward the intramural field shortly before 8 a.m., Rabud said. Prosecutors said the person was wearing clothes similar to what Ibarra had on in a Snapchat selfie posted earlier that morning, including a black Adidas cap. Ibarra was also seen discarding a bloody jacket and disposable gloves near his apartment on February 22nd at 9:44 a.m. Hairs removed from the jacket were determined to have originated from Riley or someone with hair possessing the same distinct characteristics. Ann Kistler-Rao, with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation's crime lab, testified. Riley's DNA was also found on the gloves. The probability of it not being her is 1 in 500 octillion. The gloves contain the DNA profile of at least one other person, though no determinations were made on who that could be, she said. The defense tried to discredit some of the DNA testing, which included a relatively new method called true allele, as well as questioned how the statistical probabilities on matches could vary so wildly. Hinkle said the Georgia Bureau of Investigation has validated the true allele program and that the probabilities varied based on the item being tested. The gloves, which were recovered from a bush near Ibarra's apartment, were determined to have matched ones recovered from a drawer in his apartment. Georgia Bureau of Investigation Specialist Alexander Coven testified. Under cross by the defense, Coven admitted that the gloves may have matched, but could also have come from different sources. The state rested its case on Tuesday, November 19, 2024. Ibarra waived his right to testify in his own defense. One of the defense witnesses included a woman who lived in the same apartment complex as Ibarra, who shared his apartment with multiple people, including his 2 brothers, Diego and Argenis. The witness, Stephanie Slayton, testified that Diego Ibarra threatened her the night of Riley's murder. She said he asked her about the police activity at their apartment complex dumpster, and she told him that someone had passed away in the back of our apartment. She said she told him that if had seen anything or heard anything out of normal, "You need to say something now to police." Using an app to translate his words from Spanish to English, she said he wrote her, "If you tell them, I would tell them that you did it, and then I will kill you too." Under cross-examination, Slayton said she told the Georgia Bureau of Investigators about that interaction with Diego Ibarra. Asked what he was referring to when he said, "tell them," Slayton said, "I can't speculate on what his intentions were." Diego Ibarra was set to be called as a defense witness on Tuesday, though defense attorney John Donnelly told the judge that the brother's attorney plans to advise him not to testify because he has a sentencing pending on federal charges. Diego Ibarra was arrested for possessing an illegal visa after being questioned by police in the Riley case. He has pleaded guilty to possessing a fraudulent green card. He faces a maximum of 10 years in prison, to be followed by up to 3 years of supervised release. The trial resumed for its 4th day on Wednesday, without any additional defense witnesses ultimately being called. Haggard found Ibarra guilty on all charges and sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole, honoring requests by Riley's family and friends. No sentence can undo the harm caused by Jose Ibarra's actions, but we hope it brings justice to Riley's family and the community, District Attorney Deborah Gonzalez said. Our hearts remain with Riley's family and friends as they continue to grieve this tragic loss. Police have said they believe Ibarra did not know Riley and that this was a crime of opportunity. An Australian man who killed his mother to pocket funds from life insurance policies he set up in her name will spend at least 25 years in prison for the premeditated and monstrous crime. Andre Zachary Rebelo, a supermarket delivery driver turned cryptocurrency investor, was found guilty of murdering his 58-year-old mother after an 8-week Western Australia Supreme Court trial last year. Colleen Rebelo's body was found by her youngest son Fabian under a running shower in her Bicton home in May 2020. Her death wasn't treated as suspicious and the cause was never ascertained. It wasn't until Rebelo tried to claim on his mother's life insurance policies just 3 days after she died that an insurance company employee reported him to police. He was dating social media influencer Gracie Piscopo at the time, and while the couple portrayed a glamorous lifestyle online, they had more than $100,000 of debt. Police discovered Rebelo had taken out 3 insurance policies against his mother in the week before she died, and as the sole beneficiary, he was placed to pocket more than $1 million from her death. Rebelo was the sole beneficiary of the 3 policies he had taken out in Colleen Rebelo's name and stood to gain more than $1 million from her death. His jail term was handed down on his 29th birthday, but will be backdated to November 2022. Prosecutor Brett Tucker earlier told the court Rebelo's motivation was to prove to Miss Piscopo that he could contribute to their family. He desperately needed to keep up appearances after the couple's plastic existence on social media put him in debt. Rebelo had promised Miss Piscopo that he was expecting to bring home $500,000 from cryptocurrency when he wasn't making anywhere near that figure, according to Mr. Tucker. Instead, Mr. Tucker claimed he developed a plan to kill his mother for money so he could continue to pursue the appearance he was living the perfect life. Ms. Piscopo was not accused of any wrongdoing. In handing down his sentence, Justice Bruno Fianca told the Western Australian Supreme Court it might never be known exactly what happened inside Miss Rebelo's home that day. The only reasonable inference is that you took your mother by surprise, he told the court. You used personal violence to kill her. You staged your mother in the shower to make it look like she had died of natural causes. In doing so, you stripped her of dignity. The court heard the possibility of asphyxiation, including by smothering, could not be ruled out. Justice Fianca said Rebelo's crime would have lasting impacts on his family. The persona you had created alongside Miss Piscopo was more important to you than your familial connection to your mother, Justice Fianca told the court. He told the court one of the worst consequences of Rebelo's crime was that his young son will grow into adulthood only knowing his father as an inmate in prison. Rebelo elected to testify during his trial, but maintained under oath he did not murder his mother. However, he did admit to forging documents, including his mother's will and a coroner's report. Under cross-examination, Rebelo admitted he had not told the police he visited his mother on the day she died, claiming at the time he was not in the right state of mind. He also suggested his mother may have taken her own life, testifying that was why he had tried to rush through his claims on her life insurance policies, because if it was discovered that was the case, they would have been void. But Justice Fianca described his actions as monstrous. It was a premeditated offense, a monstrous act that was integral to a fraudulent scheme, he said. Andre Rebelo must serve at least 25 years before he's eligible for parole. Outside court, Rebelo's father Antonio said he continued to stand by his son. We don't really know what happened to his mother, Mr. Rebelo said. It's sad for everyone, for all the families involved. A woman who was fooled by her future husband for months and ended up owing thousands after he saddled her with debt, explained how he managed to pull the wool from over her eyes. Megan Clarke was weeks away from one of the biggest days of her life, a wedding with the man of her dreams. Having met her charming and wealthy aristocrat fiancé, Lord Bertie Underwood, in a bar in 2017, the couple were smitten, and just a few months into their relationship, they decided to wed. But after a number of discerning red flags, Megan realized 2 months before the ceremony that her future husband-to-be was not who he said he was. The 27-year-old discovered Bertie Underwood didn't exist and was just a number of aliases her partner had used to trick women just like her. She realized Bertie's real name was Robert Medeski, a serial fraudster who had a string of previous con-man convictions. To make things worse, Megan also found out Robert had racked up £30,000 worth of debt in her name after setting up numerous credit cards with her details, a sum which she is still paying off. Megan met Robert when he stumbled into a bar she was working in on the Isle of Wight in the summer of 2017. Robert introduced himself as Lord Bertie Underwood, a wealthy aristocrat whose great-great-granddad had invented the Underwood typewriter. The pair immediately hit it off, with Robert even sending flowers to work before asking her on a date. Robert took her to a fancy restaurant where they enjoyed a 3-course meal and began to open up to each other about their lives. From then, their relationship progressed rapidly as Robert showered her in lavish gifts from Harrods, took her to London for luxurious dates, and frequently drove her around in his Bentley. After just 1 month of seeing each other, Megan moved into Robert's 3-story house on the Isle of Wight seafront. Then on Christmas Day, Robert proposed with a Cartier diamond ring. Having been swept up in a whirlwind romance, Megan agreed to marry him, even being told that once wed, she would have the title of lady. But things soon began to unravel, just as quickly as letters bearing the names of other people soon began arriving at their door. Robert initially told Megan they were addressed to the previous tenants, but she didn't buy it. She said, "I asked Bertie and his attitude changed instantly. He shut it down quite quickly and got very defensive and irate. It's definitely when I started questioning everything." Megan started investigating, and after a search of his office, she found multiple cards belonging to the same names as those on the letters. Megan Googled each of the names, only to make the harrowing discovery that her husband-to-be was not who he said he was. Megan uncovered his true identity as Robert Medeski and was met with a picture of his mugshot and news of his long history of fraud. It emerged that none of what Robert had told her was true. He was not the heir to a wealthy estate, nor was his job as a watchmaker. Even the diamond engagement ring he got her was a fake. She also realized Robert had been taking out credit cards in her name, which had left her £30,000 in debt, a huge bill that she is still paying off. Megan reported Robert to the police, only for him to go on the run. She also posted on Facebook, telling people about Robert's criminal background and how he was able to con her with numerous lies, in a bid to spread awareness about the serial fraudster in the hopes of getting him caught. But this again led to some more shocking truths. People came forward about their encounters with Robert and revealed they had been seeing him during his relationship with Megan. Not only was he a serial con man, he was also a serial cheat. Megan said, "Every single person he's done this to and had sexual relationships with have been different. There is absolutely no pattern in type, gender, or age, which makes me think there weren't real feelings ever involved." Robert was eventually caught by police and handed a 5-year jail sentence for unrelated fraud charges. However, he escaped from prison in May 2022 and is still on the run. Megan recently revealed that he has been avoiding police by moving between multiple addresses in London and Henley-on-Thames. She added that he has been posing as the Viscount of Norfolk and using the name Leopold Fitzalan Howard, while continuing to scam people out of thousands of pounds. Sussex police said in a statement, "We can confirm that Robert Medeski is still wanted by police. He has links to Hampshire, Kent, and Essex after previously absconding from HMP Ford. He is also known to have alias surnames, Doughty, Underwood, and Monsoon. Inquiries are ongoing. Anyone who sees him should call 999. Meanwhile, Megan has continued to pay off her debt after the police action fraud team were unable to help her out, using money from her photography business. Reflecting on her relationship with Robert, Megan said while she remains very much a happy and positive person, she is a lot more wary of what people are capable of. She admitted she still struggles to get her head around the bizarre ordeal and, heartbreakingly, questions whether she can ever commit to getting married again. She stated, "Maybe I will feel differently if I am in love again one day. We will see what the future holds." A Texas man now faces charges for murdering his fiancée after investigators discovered that he Googled, "Can I kill an illegal human?" Ty Dalton Vaughn, 31, of Baytown reportedly made the Google search shortly before shooting his partner, Luis Banos, 27, inside their apartment on January 14th. Although Vaughn claimed that he returned to the apartment drunk at around 5:30 a.m. to find Banos dead, court documents allege that Vaughn had been searching online to determine whether or not it was illegal for him to kill an illegal immigrant just hours before Banos' death. Detectives additionally claimed that Vaughn intentionally made the scene look like a suicide and noted that he brought up Banos' immigration status several times without being prompted during interviews with police. After reviewing security footage and interviewing neighbors, investigators were able to piece together a timeline of events quite different from the one that Vaughn initially presented. According to Ty Vaughn's version of events, he and Banos had gotten into an argument sometime during the day on January 13th. Following the fight, Vaughn claimed to have left the apartment and gone to visit his mother. Around 4:27 a.m. on January 14th, Vaughn sent a text to Banos that read, Babe, why are you not texting back?" At 5:38 a.m., Vaughn called 911 and told dispatchers, "My spouse is dead. Help, my life is over." However, security camera footage shows Vaughn returning to their apartment at 4:05 a.m., when he claimed not to be home. Furthermore, two neighbors told police they heard a gunshot shortly after, and by the time Vaughn had texted Banos with a seemingly worried message, Banos was already dead. Vaughn did not call 911 until a full 93 minutes had passed after the murder. Police said they found the body lying on a bed with a rifle propped up against his arm and a torn picture of him and Vaughn nearby. Banos had been shot through one of his eyes with the rifle. During interviews with the police, Vaughn reportedly mentioned that Banos was an illegal immigrant several times without being prompted. Throughout the investigation, Vaughn provided inconsistent statements, Baytown police said in a news release. Detectives later determined the cause of death to be a homicide. On March 7, 2025, investigators arrested Ty Vaughn. 7 weeks after the murder took place, charges against Vaughn were accepted by the Harris County District Attorney's Office. He was booked at the Harris County Jail with a bond set at $500,000. There were some indications, including blood on the bed away from the position that the complainant was found in, that the scene had been tampered with essentially, prosecutor Michael Hanover stated. Before he was officially charged, a news outlet interviewed Vaughn about the incident and asked him if he had spoken to Banos on the day of the murder. Vaughn replied, "I don't know. The police know all the details. I don't know. I've been kind of not great. I haven't really been going to police looking for answers." When the outlet offered their condolences, he replied, "I mean, it is what it is." A GoFundMe was set up by Banos' cousin Diana Asensio following his death in order to help pay for funeral expenses. Luis was known as an amazing son, uncle, brother, best friend, manager, and student, she wrote in the post. He was always there when you needed him. He was talented, artistic, creative, and such a hard worker. If you knew him, you know he was a true angel and kind soul. He deserved so much more than what this world gave him. Thanks for watching. If you like my content, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to my channel.